sometimes when we encounter setbacks in life, we have a tendency to kind of get down on ourselves a little bit and be sad and beat ourselves up and kind of say, oh, we had this failure, and it's something that is our fault and we did something wrong, and maybe we should be ashamed. But when we think about it, failure is actually a natural part of life. It's something that happens to everybody. Everybody has a failure or something that doesn't go well at some point in their life. And really, it's a question of how you respond to the failure that will define the course of your life. So I want to kind of illustrate this by giving an example of somebody from history that you probably know that had to deal with some failure. And this person basically started out working odd jobs, and eventually they borrowed some money and they opened a general store with a partner, and they were going to make some money. The economy was going well in that area. But ultimately, within a year, this person just decided that it's not working out. The business isn't going well, and so even though the economy was going well, they ended up selling their share of the partnership and just getting out of the general store business altogether. And what they decided they wanted to do is, maybe I don't want to be a business owner after all. This person decided, I want to be in politics. So they decided to run for the General Assembly in their state. And things looked bright. The person was a really good storyteller and they had a good reputation, but unfortunately they were not elected to the General Assembly. But this person, they didn't give up, and eventually in 1843 they decided to seek the nomination for Congress in their area, and they had some supporters and it seemed to be going well, but unfortunately they did not get the nomination, and so it ended up being basically another failure in this person's life, or at least that's one way of looking at it. So ultimately, this person decided maybe politics aren't necessarily for me, but maybe I can help someone else get into politics. And so they ended up working on the campaign of someone named Zachary Taylor. And Zachary Taylor was elected president. So as is often the case when someone is elected president, they go ahead and hand out political appointments or jobs to the people that help them get elected. And so this person who had run for Congress and run for the General Assembly and done all these things and hadn't really worked out, they thought, okay, I finally got my break. I helped this person become president, and now I hope to get appointed to the U.S. Land Office. But unfortunately, that did not work out. Somebody else was appointed. And so, but this person, they just would not give up, and they decided to run for U.S. Senate. And they ran a good campaign, and they had some supporters, but unfortunately the person was not elected. And they even ran a second time for the U.S. Senate and were not elected again. But this person, if you see a pattern, this person just did not give up. They just kept fighting to make something of their life. This is a person who really had some tenacity, and they were really going for it. That things aren't working out, but you have to give them credit. They just kept going for it. And ultimately, though, in 1860, this person is elected president of the United States of America. And so you might know who that person is now, and if you don't, let me just give you a little surprise then and tell you that this person is none other than Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest presidents the United States has ever known. And Lincoln had tenacity. Lincoln had drive. Lincoln had a never say die attitude. And through all these defeats, through all these things that happened, Lincoln just never gave up. And see, at any point in the past, at any point along this road, Lincoln could have said, you know what, politics isn't for me, or this just isn't working out. But he never gave in. He just kept fighting. And it kind of reminds me of something that I like to think about. And this is something that I hold really important, which is something's only a failure. It's only I'll put failure in quotes because we can call it a setback, but it's really only a failure if you don't learn anything from it. If you don't learn anything. So if something happens and it just doesn't go your way, or you don't get elected to some office, or you don't get picked for some job that you thought you deserved, or something happens, uh, if you actually treat it as a learning experience, as something that will kind of help you going forward, something where, okay, this happened, but now next time this won't happen again because I've learned this or that. If you treat it as a learning experience, then it's really something that is going to help you in your future endeavors. And you've got to believe that Lincoln, when Lincoln ran for the Illinois General Assembly, or when Lincoln tried to get the congressional nomination, or when Lincoln ran for Senate a couple times, you got to believe that Lincoln was learning things all along the way. Lincoln was treating this as a learning experience, and Lincoln didn't allow it to affect his attitude. And so he really learned from his experiences and used that and drew on that to become elected to the highest office in the United States. And it's really an amazing story. But if you're thinking that Abraham Lincoln is like the only person that's kind of had a story like this, and most people who are successful, they don't fail, they don't have these setbacks. Well, then I'd like to share a quote with you that's been something that's really been kind of impactful to me personally. As this person said, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. And by that, you might be able to guess that this is a sports person we're talking about. And I've lost almost 300 games. Now, that's a lot of games. That's 300 more games than I've lost. But then again, I haven't played any games. So 26 times, this person has been trusted by the team, the coach, to take the game-winning shot. This is the person they looked to. And they missed. They didn't make the shot. So you might look at these things and think this is a person who failed quite a bit. And so, when you think about it, I mean, those are a lot of failures. And this person even says that, they've failed over and over again in their life. But then they say that that's why they succeed. And that's something that really stuck with me, is that these failures, this person just kept going after these failures. And because of that, because they learned from the failures and they kept going after the failures, they ended up succeeding. And this is Michael Jordan that I'm talking about. Michael Jordan, probably the greatest basketball player that ever lived. And it's really humbling to me to know that here's somebody who's lost a ton of games. They've missed a lot of shots. But Michael Jordan never gave up. Michael Jordan is not a quitter. Michael Jordan is a winner. And although Michael Jordan has had setbacks and Michael Jordan has occasionally failed, Michael Jordan learned from those failures and never gave up. And so a really important quote that kind of ties together kind of Michael Jordan's attitude and Lincoln's attitude and how these people end up being successful in spite of these failures. When I kind of think of that, I think of this quote from Winston Churchill, who said that when you think about success, success is really going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. And I think it's so many people that I've known in my life who ended up failing or giving up when they had some kind of a setback or something. And I think the people who succeed, the people who get what they want in their life, the people who move forward and be successful are the Abraham Lincolns, the Michael Jordans, the people who can endure failure after failure, but they never quit. They never lose that enthusiasm. They learn from their mistakes and they go on to be successful.